$18,000. That is a real number. That is a real house in a real West Virginia town, with a real deed, a real address, and real neighbors who mow their lawn on Sundays. Not a shed, not a flood zone shack with a roof held on by prayer and aluminum tape. An actual 3-bedroom house, with 4 walls, a furnace, and a yard, for less than what most Americans spend on a used pickup truck. And this is not one town. This is 15 of them. Now, before you say, okay, but what's the catch? Yes, there is always a catch. We are going to tell you exactly what that catch is for every single town on this list, because this video is not a brochure. It is not a tourism pitch. It is not trying to sell you on West Virginia. It's simply looking at what is actually available, what the real price is, and what nobody talks about when they slap a cheap number on a listing. Real data, real zip codes, real trade-offs. Let's go. For this video, I pulled home price data from Zillow, Redfin, and the U.S. Census Bureau. I filtered for towns where the median home price, not just the cheapest listing, the median, sits well below the national average of over $400,000. I didn't include raw lots, mobile homes, or vacation land. Every town on this list has real houses with foundations and addresses. One thing to keep in mind, West Virginia as a whole has a median home value of around $174,000, already among the lowest of any state in America. What we're looking at today is what exists below that floor. These are the towns beneath the floor of the cheapest state. Coming up, there's a former county seat that was once called Little New York, where it had 100,000 residents. Now the median home sells for under $35,000. There's a river city, 58 miles from Pittsburgh, where you can buy a house for $120,000 and rent is $828 a month. And there's one tiny mountain town sitting at the edge of a national forest where the nearest traffic light is 11 miles away, and homes list for under $50,000. The list gets more interesting from here. 15. War. West Virginia. What makes War stand out is something you won't find described on any real estate platform. It is one of the single cheapest places to purchase a home anywhere in the United States of America. War sits in McDowell County, the southwestern corner of West Virginia, deep in the old coalfields. Homes here regularly list for between $15,000 and $30,000, not outlier distressed properties, regular 3-bedroom houses with addresses for less than the average car payment schedule. A normal week in War is quiet in a way that most Americans have genuinely forgotten exists. No traffic, no crowds. Mornings in McDowell County have this misty mountain hollow quality that photographers drive hours to capture. Your neighbors have been there for 40 years, and while War sits at the absolute floor of this list, the next town takes that same price range and adds a layer of history that most Americans don't know exists. The trade-off. McDowell County has lost over 85% of its population since the coal economy collapsed. Employment is severely limited. Internet access is inconsistent in parts of the county. The nearest major medical facility is a 45-minute drive. The price reflects genuine economic distress, and that's not something to minimize. 14. Welch, West Virginia. What makes Welch stand out is that it used to be something remarkable, and the physical evidence of that is still standing. Welch is the county seat of McDowell County. In the mid-20th century, McDowell County had over 100,000 residents. Welch itself was called Little New York, a thriving downtown with theaters, department stores, hotels, and restaurants serving coal executives and workers side by side. Today, fewer than 18,000 people remain in the entire county. The city of Welch has around 1,800. Median home prices in Welch run between $25,000 and $40,000. The old downtown has brick commercial buildings that would cost millions to replicate from scratch. The architecture is still there. The mountain scenery has not changed at all. For a specific kind of buyer, the kind who wants to own something real, with actual history in a place that has a story, Welch has a quiet dignity that's hard to explain until you stand in it. And while Welch is the county seat with basic services intact, the next town on this list moves toward the Kentucky border, where one of the most historically significant tiny towns in America sits mostly unnoticed. The trade-off, the same economic reality as war, amplified by scale. Downtown vacancy is significant. Remote work is essentially the only viable employment path for most outside buyers. Research broadband availability at the specific address before committing. 13. Matewan, West Virginia. What makes Matewan stand out is that it might be the most historically significant tiny town in America that most people have never heard of. Matewan sits along the Tug Fork River in McDowell County on the Kentucky border. Population around 500 people. Median home prices, roughly $20,000 to $45,000. You can own property in this town for less than a semester of out-of-state college tuition. Matewan is where the 1920 Matewan Massacre took place, one of the defining moments of American labor history, when coal miners and Baldwin Felts detectives faced off in the streets. A John Sayles film was made about it. The original buildings are still standing. There's a museum. A National Heritage Corridor designation. People travel from across the country specifically to walk these streets. And day-to-day life in Matewan is extraordinarily quiet. The Tug Fork runs right through, mountains on every side. If you want history, solitude, and genuine off-grid character, this town has something that newer places are desperately trying to manufacture. And while Matewan offers history and quiet at the price of a used car, the next town adds just a little more commercial infrastructure without losing the cheap. The trade-off? Flooding. The Tug Fork River has caused serious flood events in Matewan multiple times. Any purchase here requires a thorough flood history review and a realistic accounting of flood insurance costs. This is not optional research. Let me stop here for a second, because I can already hear some of you thinking, these are dying towns. Why would anyone want to move to a dying town? Fair question. But that framing assumes the only reason to buy a home is appreciation. That's a coastal mindset. There are people who move to towns like these not to flip a house, not to Airbnb it, not to build equity for a refinance, but because they want to own something. Actually own it. No mortgage, no landlord, no rent check every month. A paid-off home in a quote-unquote dying town beats a $2,200 a month apartment in a thriving city if what you actually want is security. Not everyone is optimizing for the same outcome. Keep that in mind as this list continues. 12 Mullens, West Virginia. What makes Mullins stand out is its slightly better infrastructure compared to the McDowell County towns we've covered, while keeping the same price range. Mullins has around 1,400 residents and sits in Wyoming County. Median home prices run from $25,000 to $50,000. There are grocery stores, a library, a few local restaurants. The Wyandot River runs nearby and offers reliable fishing and outdoor access without requiring a drive. A normal day in Mullins has a rhythm that's becoming genuinely rare. You know your neighbors' names. The pace is slow by choice, not accident. And for someone working remotely, the cost of living here is almost disorienting. Property taxes are minimal, utilities are low, and your total housing cost might be a single monthly payment that permanently ends in 10 years. And while Mullins gives you slightly more services than the deep coalfield towns, the next entry moves into a county seat with something genuinely surprising happening, an active revitalization story. Note the trade-off. Wyoming County's economy is still heavily tied to coal, which is contracting. If you're not capable of remote work, job options are limited to healthcare, local government, and small retail. Employment research before any relocation decision is essential. 11 Williamson, West Virginia. What makes Williamson stand out is that it's one of the more functional towns in this price range, and it's in the middle of a genuine, nationally recognized revitalization effort. Williamson is the county seat of McDowell County, population around 2,500. Median home prices run from $35,000 to $65,000. It sits on the Tug Fork River, directly on the Kentucky border. And it has something most of these towns don't, an active downtown with real investment happening. Williamson was featured in a national documentary about the opioid crisis, and then responded by building one of the most visited rural health parks in the state. The Coal Heritage Museum is here. Community-led building renovations are ongoing. This is a town actively rewriting its own story, not just waiting for something to change. A normal week offers more variety than the smaller towns on this list. local restaurants, community events, river access, and a mountain landscape that's genuinely stunning in every season. And while Williamson has more services and momentum than the towns we've seen, the next entry makes a dramatic geographic shift, moving deep into the mountains where the cheap price meets national forest access. The trade-off, the Tug Fork River corridor, has a documented flood risk. Well, Williamson has experienced major flood events, and certain parts of town carry higher insurance costs as a result. Research the specific address, not just the city, before making any offer. 10. Richwood, West Virginia. What makes Richwood stand out is a combination that almost shouldn't exist: mountain wilderness access, genuine outdoor infrastructure, and home prices between $35,000 and $65,000. Richwood sits in Nicholas County at about 2,200 feet elevation, surrounded by the Monongahela National Forest on nearly every side. Population around 1,900 people. From the edge of this town, you can walk directly into one of the most scenic wilderness areas on the entire East Coast. Here's the thing that doesn't add up geographically. Towns with this kind of access, hiking, rivers, elevation, forest, usually have prices to match. Aspen, Breckenridge, Jackson Hole. 6 figures minimum for something basic. Richwood is not those places, and that gap is entirely the point. A normal day here involves actual mountains, not a weekend drive to the mountains. The mountains, every day. That does something to your quality of life that's very difficult to quantify. And while Richwood gives you wilderness access at a price point that's almost unreasonable, the next town is where things shift. Adding a university, a river, and a national park nearby. The trade-off: access. Richwood is not close to anything. Major medical facilities are roughly an hour away. Internet infrastructure has improved but remains inconsistent. This town is for people who genuinely want to live in the woods, not for people who want to visit the woods occasionally. And real quick, if you're watching this and realizing you've never seriously looked at what's available in places like this, hit subscribe. That's exactly what this channel is for. The parts of America most people aren't looking at, with the actual numbers attached. Back to the list. 9. Hinton, West Virginia. What makes Hinton stand out is a combination of scenic access and connectivity that you almost never find together at this price point. Hinton is the county seat of Summers County, population around 2,500. Median home prices run from $45,000 to $70,000. It sits at the confluence of the New River and Greenbrier River, 2 of the most photographed waterways in the Appalachians. The New River Gorge National Park, designated a national park in 2020, is approximately 40 minutes away. Here's the part most people don't know. The Amtrak Cardinal line stops in Hinton 3 times a week, connecting it directly to Washington, D.C. and Chicago. No car required. The downtown has a working diner, local shops, and historic buildings from Hinton's era as a major Chesapeake and Ohio Railway hub. A normal afternoon here is genuinely unhurried. The river is right there. The kind of quiet that city people specifically schedule vacations to find is just the Tuesday default. And while Hinton delivers national park proximity at a deeply discounted price, the next town on this list moves further into the mountain interior, where outdoor access becomes even more built in to daily life. The trade-off: Hinton's economy is limited and the population has declined steadily for decades. Grocery options are thin, the regional hospital is small. This is a place of real beauty with ongoing infrastructure constraints. 8. Marlinton, West Virginia. What makes Marlinton stand out is that it has already been quietly discovered, and the people who found it don't seem to be talking too loudly about it. Marlinton is the county seat of Pocahontas County, population around 1,000. Median home prices range from $50,000 to $80,000. The Greenbrier River Trail, a 78-mile rail trail, runs directly through the center of town. Canaan Valley and Snowshoe Mountain Resort are within an hour. Elk and deer are not wildlife sightings here. They are daily occurrences. There's a small downtown with a grocery store, a hardware store, a few restaurants. Broadband infrastructure has improved meaningfully in recent years through rural expansion programs. Over the past 5 years, Marlinton has quietly absorbed a small wave of remote workers who found it and didn't leave. A normal week here has the trail, the mountains, the river, and a total cost of living that would be genuinely shocking to most people paying rent in a major city. And while Marlinton has this quiet momentum building, the next town adds a university to the equation and keeps prices nearly as low. The trade-off. Pocahontas County has one of the lowest population densities east of the Mississippi River. Social infrastructure, nailing community events, dining variety, cultural programming, and reflects that. Building a social life here takes deliberate effort, and that's worth being honest about. Here's a number most people never actually run: the carrying cost. When your mortgage or your no mortgage sits at this price level, like your annual property tax in West Virginia is typically under $500 a year. Homeowners insurance under $600. Utilities are low because the house is smaller, and energy in West Virginia is among the cheapest in the country. The total monthly cost of owning a home in several of these towns, including taxes, insurance, and utilities, can come in under $400 a month. That is less than the security deposit on a studio apartment in Nashville. The math is real. Whether that math is the right math for your life is a completely separate question, but the math is real. 7. Philippi, West Virginia. What makes Philippi stand out is the combination of a small university, Civil War significance, and home prices that a college town simply should not have. Philippi is the county seat of Barber County, population around 2,800. It's home to Alderson Broaddus University, and median home prices range from $55,000 to $80,000. The Tygart Valley River runs through town. The covered bridge at the center of Philippi is one of the oldest in continuous use in the United States, and Philippi was the site of the first land battle of the Civil War in 1861, a fact that most people in the country don't know, and that the town has preserved remarkably well. A university town typically commands a price premium: student rental demand, faculty home purchases, campus events that generate foot traffic. Philippi hasn't fully priced that in. For someone thinking about a small rental investment at this price range, the university population provides a built-in tenant base. And while Philippi offers university infrastructure at an unusual discount, the next town provides something different: a larger county seat with interstate access that keeps home prices surprisingly low. The trade-off: Alderson Broaddus University has faced financial and enrollment challenges in recent years. The economic health of a small college town is directly tied to its institution. This is worth monitoring closely if university-adjacent investment is part of your reasoning. 6. Grafton, West Virginia. What makes Grafton stand out is practical. It offers daily life infrastructure that most of the towns we've covered simply don't have. And it does it for between $45,000 and $75,000. Grafton is the county seat of Taylor County, population around 4,700. It sits along the Tygart Valley River, 20 miles south of Clarksburg, and within reasonable reach of I-79, the corridor connecting Pittsburgh to Charleston. There is a working grocery store. A Walmart is within 20 minutes. Basic daily functioning is covered. Grafton also has national historical significance as the home of the International Mother's Day Shrine. This is where Anna Jarvis campaigned to establish Mother's Day as a national holiday, and the Anna Jarvis House is a registered national landmark. People visit specifically to see it. A normal week in Grafton has the kind of basic city functionality that makes daily life manageable without requiring constant long drives. And at these prices, the cost-to-livability ratio starts to become genuinely compelling. And while Grafton provides accessibility and infrastructure, the next entry on this list is a larger county seat, with a hospital, restaurants, and outdoor recreation drawing visitors from across the region. The trade-off: like much of rural West Virginia, Grafton's economy has contracted from its industrial peak. Meaningful employment outside healthcare, education, and local government is limited. A portable income is strongly advisable. 5. Logan, West Virginia. What makes Logan stand out is that it functions as a genuine regional hub, with hospitals, chain restaurants, shopping, and an outdoor recreation economy that's actively growing. Logan is the county seat of Logan County, with a city population around 1,700, but a broader county area closer to 35,000 people. Median home prices run from $60,000 to $90,000. Logan has actual economic infrastructure, a hospital, pharmacies, national retail, and a real commercial district. And here's what most people don't know about Logan County: the Hatfield-McCoy Trail System. One of the largest ATV and off-road trail networks in the entire country runs directly through it. Thousands of riders come through every single season. This creates a consistent local economic engine that the pure coal economy towns don't have. Tourism, hospitality, equipment rental, food service. It's a diversified base that didn't exist here 20 years ago. And while Logan offers the most economic diversification we've seen on this list so far, the next four towns are where the price to infrastructure ratio becomes almost unreasonable, in the best possible way. The trade-off: Logan County has struggled with opioid addiction and elevated poverty rates. These are real quality of life considerations that affect schools, public safety, and community character. Research county health rankings for Logan County specifically before making any decision, something I want to acknowledge directly. Several of these towns, they and the counties surrounding them, have been seriously impacted by the opioid epidemic. That is not a footnote. That's a real thing that affects schools, public safety, and what it's like to live somewhere day to day. I'm not going to gloss over that with mountain scenery photography. If that context matters to your decision, and for most families it should, research the specific county on county, healthrankings.org, before making any move. The cheap price is real. So is the context that produced it. 4. Huntington, West Virginia. What makes Huntington stand out is that it is a real, functioning city. West Virginia's second largest, with a median home sale price of $78,200. Huntington has a population of around 45,000. It's home to Marshall University, a teaching hospital, a functioning downtown arts and restaurant district, breweries, an amphitheater, and an interstate connection. It sits on the Ohio River at the tri-state corner where West Virginia, Kentucky, and Ohio meet. For someone relocating from Atlanta, Charlotte, or Columbus, Huntington feels like a genuine mid-sized city. Coffee shops where people work on laptops, a farmer's market, neighborhoods with real character, real history, and real street life. And then a median home sale price of $78,200. On a national scale, that number is almost incomprehensible for a city of this infrastructure level. The national median is over $400,000. Huntington is not $400,000. Huntington is $78,200. And while Huntington gives you the most urban experience on this list at an extreme value, the next three towns push that combination of infrastructure and affordability even further. The trade-off: Huntington had well-documented struggles as a focal point of the opioid epidemic. The situation has measurably improved, but the neighborhood quality varies significantly across the city. Research the specific area. Huntington has excellent neighborhoods and challenging ones, and the price difference between them is not always large. Choose your block carefully. 3. Clarksburg, West Virginia. What makes Clarksburg stand out is one unusual fact that changes the entire economic calculus of this city. The FBI's Criminal Justice Information Services Division is headquartered here. Clarksburg is the county seat of Harrison County, population around 15,000. Median home sale price, $111,250. The FBI's CJIS complex is one of the largest federal facilities in the country, and its presence creates a stable government employment base that most West Virginia cities simply cannot match. This is an economy not purely dependent on extractive industry, and that changes the risk profile of buying here significantly. The downtown has the Robinson Grand Performing Arts Center, local restaurants, and I-79 access that makes Pittsburgh reachable in under 2 hours. Clarksburg is the birthplace of Stonewall Jackson. The historic architecture is genuinely beautiful. Brick buildings and storefronts from the early 20th century that have survived largely intact. While the normal week here has more functioning infrastructure than anything else we've seen on this list, and a median home price that is still less than 28% of the national average. And while Clarksburg offers government employment stability and $111,000 homes, number 2 on this list makes a case that's almost impossible to argue with on a pure value basis. The trade-off: Downtown Clarksburg still has commercial vacancy in certain blocks. The city feels smaller than its history suggests it should be. Cultural programming and dining variety are limited compared to a full metro area. 2. Weirton, West Virginia. What makes Weirton stand out is its geography, and what that geography means for anyone who needs to remain connected to a major city. Weirton sits in West Virginia's northern panhandle, directly on the Ohio River. Pennsylvania is a bridge crossing away. Pittsburgh is 30 miles north. The median home value here is $135,959, and the average rent in Weirton is $758 per month, the cheapest average rent in the entire state of West Virginia. $758 a month in a city connected to Pittsburgh by a 30-mile drive. That sentence requires a second read. Weirton was built around the Weirton Steel Company, which once employed nearly the entire city. That era has passed. But what remains is a well-built city with real infrastructure: hospitals, schools, a commercial district, riverside parks, at West Virginia pricing. The bones of a steel city are genuinely substantial. These neighborhoods were built to last, for remote workers who want Pittsburgh access for weekend dinners and concerts while paying West Virginia prices for their mortgage. Weirton offers something that's very difficult to find anywhere else in the northeastern United States. And while Weirton makes a compelling case on Ohio River access and Pittsburgh proximity, the number one town on this list earns its position through something more than just price. The trade-off: Weirton's post-steel economic recovery has been uneven. Certain commercial blocks remain underutilized. The city is in a genuine transition, which creates opportunity, but also uncertainty. Research which specific neighborhoods are seeing investment activity. 1. Wheeling, West Virginia. What makes Wheeling the top of this list is a convergence that almost doesn't make sense on paper. Ohio River access, Pittsburgh 58 miles away, a walkable Victorian historic district, a genuine active downtown revitalization, minor league hockey, an independent bookstore, and a median home sale price of $120,850, with average rent at $828 a month. Wheeling is the former capital of West Virginia, population around 25,000. The Wheeling Suspension Bridge, built in 1849, was once the longest suspension bridge in the world. The historic Market Street corridor has been undergoing real revitalization for over a decade. Breweries, restaurants, live music venues, performing arts at the Capitol Theater. As of March 2026, construction is actively underway on a new downtown green space. This is not a city hoping for investment. This is a city receiving it. The bones of Wheeling, the architecture, the river, the Pittsburgh proximity, the history, are things that mid-sized cities across the country have spent hundreds of millions trying to manufacture. Wheeling already has them. And it's still pricing its housing like it doesn't quite know that yet. For the price of a used car down payment in Austin or Denver, you can own property in a city with this history, this access, and this trajectory. The trade-off: Wheeling faces ongoing population decline, and downtown commercial vacancy remains in certain blocks despite the revitalization momentum. This is a city with real visible momentum, not a city that has fully arrived. That distinction matters for buyers who need certainty over potential. Finding a home you can actually own in the United States in 2026 is, for most people, starting to feel like something that just doesn't happen anymore. The national median is over $400,000. Rent in major cities is consuming 35, 40, sometimes 50% of take-home pay. The math stopped adding up for a lot of people a long time ago. West Virginia doesn't solve all of that. No single state does. The towns on this list, especially the cheaper ones, come with real trade-offs that deserve serious consideration before any decision gets made. Limited employment, rural isolation, economic distress that has genuine effects on schools, public safety, and community character. But here's what's also true. West Virginia is the cheapest state to buy a house in America. And within it, there are towns where you can own a home. Actually own it permanently, with a deed in your name and no rent check to anyone, for less than the price of a used car. What you do with that information depends entirely on what you're actually optimizing for. For some people, none of these towns make sense. For others, when one of them is the answer to a problem they've been carrying for years. That's what this list is for. I'm curious, which of these 15 towns surprised you the most? And if you grew up in West Virginia or you've already been there, drop it in the comments. Tell me what I got wrong. I genuinely want to know.